This is a technique I've been using for a while. I have got my throw line over a limb that I want to climb on, but it's over some other limbs as well, so I haven't isolated on it yet. But I climb these trees a lot, and if I keep pulling weights up and burning lines down through the bark, I'm going to have some damage in my trees. So what I'm going to do before I do anything else is go ahead and install a rope sleeve so it takes all the friction. And all I've done is tied the two ends of the line together, and I'm going to pull this up and over the limb, and then when I get it over there, I'll just pull this back down, untie that, tie my rope on, or actually a throw bag in this case, and isolate the limb. And as Alright, purpose of the ring, you can see now, it's to block the throw line from going through the sleeve, and I've got the other end tied to it so that when it gets up there I can pull this back down. Usually this is enough weight to pull a throw line back down by itself. Alright, it's just in position and just right, and I'm basically just releasing this throw line, and the weight of the ring's bringing it back down. And there it is. Now this next part's a bit tricky. I'm using 11mm velocity rope. I've got a pile hitch in the end of my throw line to attach it, and a clove hitch up very near the tip. Now you recall that I've already installed the rope sleeve. The trick is to get this end of the rope with that stub through that rope sleeve. It's usually pretty easy. A lot easier than it sounds like it would be. I have actually had to stand down here and twist the rope a number of times to get it to go through. It's not quite as difficult, or as easy I should say, to knock that sleeve down as you might think. And the rope just went through, by the way. I didn't even have to work with it, it just slid right through. So I'm pulling all my friction and forces against that rope sleeve because it's run through the rope sleeve. So I've completely isolated that limb with a rope sleeve. I'm going to do a ground tie, and I use another rope beside my climbing rope. This happens to be about 30 feet of Arborplex to do the anchor point, and I carabiner the climbing rope end here, so I've got basically a wrap 2 pull 1. But this is the setup I use, and it's working really good. I've already got a figure-8 loop on the back tied in here, and here's how I'm going to secure it. Now, we hear a lot of bad things about the sheet bend. Well, that's what I'm going to use, except I'm going to use it a little bit differently. Since this has no tail, direction of the tail of the part I'm slipping through here now doesn't matter. And I'm going to run another half hitch right here just to lock it good. And it's a good knot because it'll tighten up and it'll loosen easily. This is going to work its way up the tree. It'll form an X behind the tree, and this will be around the front, so all that friction's around the tree. So from that beginning, here's what it looks like. You can see the knot. I'll try not to make you sick doing this. You can see the knot down at the bottom, and I'll walk you around the tree and show you what this looks like. I'm kicking the tripods, what's happening. You can see there's the X in the back. One thing I don't like so much is this. It's not really where I want it to be, so I'm going to adjust it. I want that to be a spread out loop. Okay, here's how I'm going to terminate my climbing line. I'm going to put it through an aluminum delta and use a anchor hitch. I use these by the ton, and they're very compact, they're very secure. I use them for foot loops, rope anchors, cinches, chokes, whatever I'm using. I just about use these things if I'm using a connector. In this case, I'm going to actually back it up. I don't normally, well, I normally do for ground ties because I can't see it. And it's just going to be a scaffold hitch. And I'm not making any attempt to minimize tail or maximize anything. I just want it to be like that. Now, just so you can keep up with what's what, this is the part that's going to get pulled, and it'll lock right there when I put weight on it. This is going to be still have slack in it. It's just there, and this then of course just hooks around that. And once I get it hooked, I put a little pull on that just to get that anchor rope pulled up a little bit so it won't slip down on me. Alright, there we go. You can see it will move once I load it, so that's why I went to so much trouble to spread that rope out a lot. It was pointed out to me that I don't show the setups I'm using, so I thought I'd do that tonight. I'm going to start right here with this ascender. This is a Petzl tree ascender or tree sender, and it has two handles and actually two ascender units on it. It's a little bit elaborate, but the reason I use this particular one is it gives me perfect symmetry on my arms and hands, and I'm looking for that. I'm going to also do something that does the same thing for my feet. But let me show you this real quick. Of course, we've got the ascender, and right here, a little too close. I first have a tether that's actually a Blake's hitch that's been tied here with, guess what, an anchor hitch. And it's just looped through that, and I use this. I'll actually show you how I use this in a minute to transfer weight to come down. And the other thing I've got here is a little delta with a girth hitch to some 3/4 inch nylon. This is just tubular nylon, and I've used two bowlines to form two foot loops in them. And these two things, of course, give me a symmetrical lift, even lift for each foot. So everything so far about this rig is perfectly symmetrical. This is, all right, how does this thing all work together? Two things on my rope bridge. One is an ABC. It's essentially a crow. It's the ABC equivalent of a Petzl crow. And ABC stands for Advanced Base Camp. I've made a little nylon strap with some quick disconnects, and I can take that up, and that's very important. And this is going to be a tree frog, well, not a tree frog, but just a frog sit stand. And this strap goes over my head, and this is what advances this ascender. Now, this is important. This strap has to go this way, over this way and under this way. It has to be that way. If you get it the other way, it tips this thing out when you pull up. This neck strap advances it up the rope, and if you have it the other way, it will make this thing twist out like that, and it gets pretty nasty. And you can see if I pull on this, what it's doing, it actually straightens it. So even if it got crooked, when I pull to advance, it pulls it back in. The other thing that I have here is a Grigri 2, and it's clipped on just ready to do an ascend when I get ready to descend. When I get ready to do that, shouldn't be a problem. Let me show you how this thing sets up. This is the ascender, often called a chest ascender. I guess because it sets in front of the chest. And you just have to take up some slack until you get the stretch out of the rope, and at some point you can sit down. There we go. I'm going to back the camera off so you can get a little bit wider view. Before I actually hook up again and start to climb, I'm going to add one more thing to my system. And you can use this as I'm going to use it. And I'm just going to use this little quick disconnect thing here. This is not life support. And I really like this knot. It will hold very securely. And when you get ready to take it loose, it comes loose. So, what is this thing for? Well, you know how hard it is to get an ascender started sometimes when you're at the bottom of the tree and the rope's not heavy enough, doesn't have enough weight on it to feed itself? Well, I've got a trick for that. I'm going to put the rope through almost anything. This is just going to be this carabiner. And I'm going to bring this rope up and fasten it into another carabiner on my harness. Together with all that and this kind of 2-to-1 pull thing, it will let the rope feed through the ascender on about the second stroke, at least velocity rope. Alright, got that. And I'm just going to clip it in here to a carabiner. And what will happen as I go up, it'll have to feed rope through that, through this, and the weight of this rope. It's pretty effective. It introduces some friction. You could even put another turn here if you want to get a little more. It might bind up with you though. I've never tried that. I haven't had to. But after you get up so far, you can drop this rope and it'll drop to the ground. If you want the other end of your rope, all you have to do is pull it up the same as you always would, and the end will feed right through there. So I'll see if I can get all this working at once. Another secret to this frog system, this is a sit stand, remember. It's getting this neck strap right. When it gets so comfortable, you can't hardly stand it. You're probably there. Alright. Oops, need one foot on the other side of the rope. Here we go. And you do have to keep the tension on that rope, or in other words, the slack out of it. So let me see if I'm good enough to sit. Yeah. And go up. And it usually takes about 2 strokes before this thing really starts to work. Did the first time. And that's the way that works. I don't want to get too high because I want to show you from the ground level where it's easy to work the camera how to get off of this thing. When I get up to where I'm going, come back down, I can pop that off, get it out of the way. The next thing I'm going to do is take up some slack on this thing. And it's just, remember, a backup at this point, but it's going to become more than that in just a second. What I need to do is unload this carabiner, or this ascender, so I can transfer weight to my Grigri 2. So I'll get that installed next, and by the way, this would be a good time to clear the rope. Normally I wouldn't do that till I was about 10 or 12 feet up. Now, here's an issue. I can't tighten up the Grigri enough to unload this ascender. And it's fully weighted. But what I can do is move this up, and as I go up, I'm going to pull on this rope, and this auxiliary carabiner will advance the knot up, and I'll actually get slack in this carabiner, the ascender, and you can see it. There it is. So all I have to do is take it off now, and I'm tied in here. And I've also got the Grigri on. If that should fail, the Grigri, I have no doubt, will catch me. So now I have that. Now, the question would be, how do I unload that? And I could step up, pull this up, or because I have the blades hitched, I can simply do that. Take this loose, and I usually clip it in someplace and take my foot loops off, but I'm so low to the ground, I'm not going to do that. And that's my setup.